Hi, everybody. Welcome back to The Reason We Learn. I'm Deb Fellman, mom, homeschooler, individualist. If you missed my last video, why I'm now calling myself that and not educator, I have decided I don't really want to be so narrow, and also the term educator now has been tainted, poisoned, etc. by other people who call themselves that, who have nothing in common with me. So I'm going to go with what I really am at my core, first principles, etc., individualist. And the reason that's important is I want to talk to you about an idea that is not mine. I'm not the first person to have this thought. I read an editorial actually by Dan Crenshaw this weekend that talks about it. There's also a book, I believe, that's about the same topic. So it's not new. But I've long thought that we have a problem in America right now that is not one so much of political polarization as it is of philosophical polarization. And I say philosophical only in the sense that we explain why we think what we think. So what our worldview is, how we see the world, what story we tell ourselves about what's going on in the world at any given time in the macro sense. Obviously, that will affect all the stories we tell ourselves about all the little micro things that are going on. So, like Dan Crenshaw and like others who have written on this topic, I see it as follows. We are two kinds of people right now in America. You have your victors and your victims. And I couldn't tell you which group has more people in it. I'm not sure it really matters, but I can tell you who's dominant, what the dominant culture is right now. And I'm going to use that term very intentionally because it's often used in a pejorative way to refer to so-called white culture. It's no such thing as white culture, but so-called white culture is dominant. And I've often referred to dominant culture as that culture which is winning out, sort of dominant in the sense that it's most successful, or dominant has the ear of more people, or getting more play, affecting what's actually happening on the ground, etc. It's neither good nor bad. It's just dominant. Okay. Right now, I believe the victims are on the ascendance, or maybe they've reached peak victim. I don't know. I hope, because that would mean that we're going to be on a downslope soon. And I hope that that's the case, because I think the problem with seeing yourself as a victim is the stories you tell yourself about the world, about why the world works the way it does, why bad things happen to good people, why your life isn't exactly as you want it to be, even outside of any particular isolated case of legitimate victimization. I mean, let's say you suffered some kind of abuse in your childhood. That's legit, okay? You were a victim in that scenario. But if you explain that situation to yourself as, I am a victim, that is now my identity. And then if you start adding identity characteristics onto your existing identity as someone who suffered a trauma, or an event, and you make all of those other things events or as significant, you equate them, or you don't have any event like that, so you've got to make all these identity markers like those events. In other words, if we make being a victim a kind of social currency, it's valuable. It's something you can trade on and literally make money from. Whether it's through, grievance activism, you want someone to pay you for your victimization and give you more money or give you more benefits, or, hire you for a job. If you see some kind of material gain in, professing what a victim you are, and how that in itself makes you deserving of some kind of compensation, or you're going to write a book about it, or you're going to try to sell a curriculum that's about it, or whatever it is, the point is it's of value now to be a victim and to convert other people into believing that they are victims as well. There's just a whole lot of marketability there. And then you have the people who say, no, that bad thing happened to me because bad things happen. And it's nothing I specifically did. It's nothing that makes me specifically deserving. It's no guarantee it's going to happen again. And in fact, I have a measure of control over what happens to me the rest of the day, tomorrow, the next day, etc. in my life. And while my circumstances now might be less than desirable, I can do things to improve upon them. No guarantees, but there's always tomorrow. So I guess we would look at it as, the Scarlett O'Hara point of view, if you want to be funny about it. Tomorrow is another day. Whereas the victim sees yesterday as the only day. Yesterday's the only day. There are no new days. Tomorrow is another day to talk about yesterday. And as far as talking about next week, well, forget about it. As far as talking about today, again, today's only purpose is to talk about yesterday. So you're perpetually living in the past. And that is, I would hope, obviously, anti-progress, anti-reason, anti-reality. So that's sort of the other thing that we have going on, because the person who sees him or herself as a victim has to change reality to fit that story. It's, if that's your identity, as I'm a victim, you've only been victimized as much as you've been literally victimized. I mean, that you can measure or point to. So you now have to change what is in reality to fit that victim narrative. And everything can become part of it. So that's why we now hearing that everything is white supremacy, or everything is racism, from wearing shoes inside to your lawn, to highways, to peanut butter and jelly, to Dr. Seuss, to playing golf, hiking in the woods, literature itself, getting the right answer on a math test. It's going to get more ridiculous before it gets any better. It's going to become so absurd that it's going to become dangerous, because we're getting closer and closer and closer to any human who disagrees with this, any human who likes these things, any human who looks this way, any human who is part of the group I've identified as the enemy in my alternate reality, doesn't deserve to live. I mean, it's really quite simple. I mean, that was Hitler's MO. I mean, Hitler saw Germany as a victimized country, saw himself as a victim, saw all Germans as victims, and the only way they could become victors, the only way they could rise above the fact that they had been victimized. And even if, we could debate all day long whether it was right or wrong for the Versailles Treaty to, impose reparations on them or whatever. But the fact is, they were led to believe they were victims, and the only way they could build back their society and get it back was to turn around and punish those who had victimized them. And of course, there was the scapegoat, which was the Jews and the communists and the trade unionists and the, and so forth. But that's what's going to happen if we don't push back against this. If we don't say, well, you can see yourself as a victim, but I'm a victor. I'm not going to do that. And this is something that can only happen on an individual level. Each and every one of us has to do it. So as tempting as it might be, either to stay silent or to find areas of common ground where you can relate or validate their sense that they are a victim, or whatever the case may be, as tempting as that is, you need to not do that. Because once you get caught in that validation feedback loop, there's no ending it. There's no ending it. It's an addiction they have. You validate, well, I understand that your lived experience is very painful, whatever. There's never going to be a time where you get to say, but. You're not going to. They're going to keep upping the ante and moving the goalpost farther and farther down the field. So better not to start. Better to start with, so what? Literally, we should all have t-shirts made up that say, so what? Because you're neither denying their experience nor validating it. You're just saying, so what? Now what? What are you going to do? Okay. Yeah, okay. All these things, all the things you think are wrong in your life and your circumstance, they're hard, life's hard, you're all these identities that you think are so put upon. What are you going to do about it? And more importantly, in the United States of America, what are you going to do about it that does not infringe on me, that doesn't make a victim out of me? What are you going to do about it for you and only you? What are you going to do about it that doesn't demand a piece of someone else? How is your victimization more important than someone else's? And what gives you the right to victimize other people, especially people who weren't even there? It had nothing to do with it. So the only thing we need to be saying is, so what? So what? You're a victim. I'm not. I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim of all the circumstances in my life. And it's not because I was so privileged. I had plenty of situations in my life that were far less than desirable. I just didn't stay there. I even said to myself, so what? At some point. Yeah, we all get low. We all have times where we're depressed. We all have times where we're thinking, do I really want to be here anymore? Maybe we don't all have them, but I did. And I had to say to myself, so what? Now what? What are you going to do? What are you going to do next? How are you going to get through tomorrow? What good is hanging out in yesterday? Except to maybe learn from it. If there's something you can take away from that, that you can say, well, I made a choice and there's my agency, there's my control. I'm not going to make that choice again. I'm going to make different choices. Okay, that's worthwhile to look backwards. That's the only reason. But looking back at things that were happened before you were born, looking back at things you had nothing to do with, looking back at things that were random, truly random, just bad stuff happened to you because bad stuff happens to good people, not through any choice of yours. Maybe it was a choice of your parents. Okay, so observable fact, you grew up in poverty. Observable fact, you grew up a part of a marginalized group. Not denying any of this. I'm not going to waste my time arguing with you. You see your life as having had these issues. Okay, so what? So what? Give me a concrete example of how that is hindering you today despite your efforts, despite your best efforts. Because nothing in life is, that's good is just supposed to fall in your lap. Did you imagine that was the case? Do you really believe, like the Eddie Murphy skit from SNL from way back when, that, you were just, that white people just walk into a store and people go, here, take it for free. It's yours. Yeah, it's whatever. No. Everybody has to work for what they have. Even the person who's got nepotism on their side and something lands in their lap has to wake up the next day and perform. They can only float on that boat so long. Eventually, people get wise to it and they have to perform, they have to do things. And if you don't think that causes stress, guess again. So you may not want to cry tears for those people. That's fine. That's your prerogative. But they're dealing with that, or they're having that advantage, and nothing to do with you. That's not what's holding you back. That's not what's getting in your way. Maybe it's in your way of that specific job. Okay, but not others. So what? You gonna stay in victim land, or are you gonna become a victor? Are you going to do that? And as a person who's concerned with what we're teaching our kids, I think it is incredibly dangerous to teach young children who have no perspective. They have no other means, perhaps, of finding out about what really went on in the past, what is really going on in the present, how things actually work. That how the wheels of industry and society actually turn. How things get made, how things show up in stores, how anything works. There's a giant danger in teaching people about this sort of, fixed pie mentality that you don't have because someone else has, that you're a victim because you're a victim and there's nothing you can do about it, and not teaching them to look up to victors, not teaching them to elevate and admire people who've overcome. And I don't mean just overcome and are angry, overcome and are out there, protesting. I mean, overcome, moved on, and went on with their individual lives and didn't look back. And that's okay too. You don't have to become an activist to move on. In fact, maybe you shouldn't. You should become the activist of your own life. You should protest your own issues and put all the energy you would throw into changing the world, to change your world, your individual little world. Gonna get a lot better life out of that. Not just for you either, but you, any kids you bring into this world, every person whose life you touch, everything you do is going to be better as a result of your I got this attitude. So I don't need to say so what to those people. They have an answer. They don't even make me pose the question in the first place. Half the time I don't even know that they were victimized because they're not hanging out in the past. They're active at living in the present because they have a plan for tomorrow. And they know that plan may go awry. Anything could happen. But they're prepared and they know they can overcome it. no matter how hard it is. So that's what I see. And I think it's really important that we look at curriculum with this in mind. How does what they're putting in front of my child teach them to be a victor, not a victim? What is the inherent value in teaching someone about oppression in the past? Now, I am not suggesting we sugarcoat the past and say we would talk about all the happy things. No, of course not. But I think for every bad thing that happened, we must teach about the progress that was made. We must teach how the people there overcame, how they rose up, how they made lives for themselves, how they succeeded. We must teach about all the people who helped make that possible. We cannot segment it out by, the black people were victims and the white people were oppressors. The civil rights movement had many white participants. The abolitionist movement had many white, it was founded by white people. So we have to talk about the people, period, the humans who made progress possible, and give these kids hope. If you really want them to be part of solutions, that's what you do. They then see what solutions look like, how people work together to find solutions, how people work together to find, shared values and goals and bring them to fruition. But if all you teach is let's hang out for a long, long time in the oppression and talk about the oppression and the oppression and the oppression and the oppression, and that's what I see in these curriculum materials. And people are just getting so excited. We're going to teach our kids all about the bad things. First of all, your children are not adults. They can't contextualize this. They don't know how to see that next to progress. You're going to teach it to them in a silo. All these bad things happen. Isn't it terrible? And there's white supremacy everywhere around you. No, there isn't. That's a lie. That's just not true. It's demonstrably not true. If you can put black-owned business on a bunch of products in the supermarket and it actually increases their sales, this is not a white supremacist situation here. That's just obvious. I mean, if you can go to the average, turn on the average award show for the Grammys or something, and, half of the award recipients are black or minorities, you're not dealing with a white supremacist situation, because in white supremacist cultures, that's not even allowed. That is not allowed, period. So I just wanted to bring this up because I feel like everything else fits into this. Everything I'm talking about on this channel, any curriculum I show you, any free speech dispute, any case like Gabrielle Clark's and William Clark's, it all falls into this. Somebody is trying to push the victim story and somebody else is going, so what? And pushing back. We need to find and become the people wearing the shirt that says, so what? And demand answers. And when people don't have an answer for us, when they don't have a practical solution as an answer to so what, we need to simply discount what they're doing, discount what they're saying, and move right past them. Stop trying to change their minds. You can ask them the question. It might jog something loose. And they go, oh, how cold and how terrible. And oh, I'm so offended. And just like, I'm not trying to offend you. Okay. Not saying it happened, didn't happen, good, bad, or indifferent. What are you going to do about it? So what? And again, like I said, so what? That doesn't have to take something away from someone else. That's the key. If their only answer is, well, I got to take from you, or I need reparations, or I need this, or I need even more affirmative action. I need people to step aside. I need people to step down. I need there not to be an advanced high school for, kids that might attract too many people who don't look like me. I need to not have recommendation letters and not have SATs and not have this and not have that, not have anything that puts any risk on me whatsoever. Everybody else has to suffer. We can't have any kind of distinguishing traits that distinguish us in a good way. We can't allow people to distinguish themselves above anyone else. Everyone has to be equal. We have to have equity. Nope, that's what I need to make myself feel better as a victim. We need to just blow right past those people. Those people are not worth your time. They're not worth your time. If that is their answer, go right past them. If you've got kids in a school that populated by teachers like that, run by a school board like that, get out. You can't be around people like that. What they're selling is appealing. It's as appealing as donuts. It's such an easy answer. It's so emotionally satisfying and gratifying for now until tomorrow when you have to do it again. And just like any kind of drug or, sugary substitute for reality, it loses its flavor. You got to spit that gum out and put another piece in, and that get where you're going to find the other piece. Now you're making something else, something else, something else. You're eventually just tearing things down and consuming everything that's good. You're consuming the victors, literally, because eventually the victors themselves will be standing in the way of you and your perception of reality, your misperception of reality. And the only way to avoid that is to move right past those people and keep on keeping on. Keep on being a victor. Be a louder victor. Make more demands of the victims. I didn't say victimize them. Just do not coddle them. Hold them accountable. Treat them like the adults most of them are. They want to be treated like children. They want to treat your children like adults, expecting them to understand abstract concepts with no context, but they want to be treated like little precious babies wrapped in little bubble wrap and protected. Your little feelings protected because it hurts and I'm uncomfortable. You need to sit with your discomfort, but you're hurting me. My pronouns. Oh no, I'm gonna suicidal because you didn't use the right pronoun. No, just no. That's what you need to say. You need to say no more often. You need to say so what more often. And when you don't get an answer that makes any sense whatsoever, you need to just be like, talk to the hand. I got to be a victor. I got to go on and be the victor of my own life. And you're in my way. Because they are. And pretty soon, if there are enough of them, they'll stand in your way for good. And for bad, but you know what I mean, permanently. So that's just a little thing I was thinking about. Just wanted to share. You think a lot of thoughts in a 13-hour car ride. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this? Put it in the comments. If you like this video, comment on this video, share this video. That's the video.